Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and I want to thank you so much for joining us, whether you're live or watching us on replay, whether you're here in the audience or out in Zoom land somewhere, maybe watching us on Facebook or YouTube or any of the Conscious Awakening Network platforms of Roku, Amazon, Apple TV. You might be watching us on the phone app. You might be watching us on the website, but wherever you are, thank you so much for joining us. So I'm excited that again tonight, my co-host is Alan Steinfeld, and he's the founder and the host of New Realities. He's also the author of Making Contact. So if you haven't gotten your book, Alan can tell you how to do that. But tonight, he has invited Adam Giannato to share with us about this new book that he's writing that contains the 7 secrets of greatness. So I am super excited that he's here with us. And Alan, let me go ahead and bring you up. And maybe also you want to talk a little bit about the Portal to Ascension event that's coming up.
Right. Thank you, Sheila. It's always great to be here. I'm in the beautiful back country of Sedona, Arizona. I don't think you could see my background is blurred, but this is a new time we're coming into. This is an evolution of consciousness. So a lot of us are gathering and people are emerging with some great secrets. And Adam, I find, is one of those who, he's been in the mainstream world, but he's had this awakening. And in that awakening, he wants to share that knowledge that has led to his success and share it on a metaphysical, spiritual, and also in a way, material world. So what brings success? So I was really happy. He's not just a good friend. He's like someone who's really committed to conscious evolution, cosmic conversations. So he has, and I don't recommend anything I actually haven't read. I mean, I read Adam's book. It's not out yet, but I was really impressed. I mean, he's not necessarily coming from a writing background, but he wrote a beautiful treatise on using the work of Bashar, his own personal experiences, which has made him successful, which I was very impressed by the success he achieved. And so I think it's really valuable to share this cosmic conversation with your community, Sheila, with all our friends on the Conscious Awakening Network, and anyone that may listen on my channel. Oh, but getting back to what also I'm doing before I introduce Adam, so he can take the stage. Yes, I'm hosting an event with Neil Garjone of Angels in San Diego, April 21st to 23rd. And it's a Portal to Ascension event with some of the major leaders in the field, Linda Moulton Howe, UFO people and consciousness people, ancient civilization, Michael Cremo, JJ and Desiree Hurtak, Robert Schoch. Those are the ancient civilizations. And so we go from the ancient past to the future, where ET contact is not just a possibility, it's a reality. And you could find that at ascensionconference.com or portaltoascension.org. But now our main feature and the wisdom, and just from his own personal life, he doesn't claim to be some, great guru. He's a regular guy with wisdom that's really practical for everybody. And he's written this book, the seven great laws of success, right? Is that the name?
Close to it. 7 secrets of greatness.
Yes, 7 secrets of greatness. And they're secrets only until you know what they are. So Adam Giannato, please join us, Cosmic Conversations. Thanks for being here, my friend.
It's an honor, and I hope I meet everyone's expectations. But, I use this word greatness, and I want to take that word out of it a little bit. The 7 secrets was already taken, so I had to throw another word in there. But we came to find that this word greatness, it's your own definition. What is greatness? It's really like our own definition. To me, success, I thought success was doing good in school, getting a scholarship, working at a company for 30 years, working my way up the ladder. And that's true success. But as I went through that life, as I went through college, as I went through the corporate ladder, I came to realize that those are outdated paths to success. And I think success might be the wrong term we've been using. In my book, you're going to hear that I use the term fulfillment. Fulfillment to me is true success. When you're happy and you want to wake up the next day, that's fulfillment. We call it success, but success seems to be a made-up word where, you know, the powers that be dangle a carrot and you run after it. And by the time you get to one level of success, you're like, oh, all right, I made it here. Great. I'm successful. Now what? And you're kind of not fulfilled. And I'll tell you a story. And this comes from one of my secrets, but I guess I'll say it now. There was this guy, he was a professional athlete. He was a two-sport professional athlete. He just won the NFL Super Bowl. He was a professional baseball player and a professional football player at the top of his game. The guy had it all. He had everything, money, fame. He was at the top. And one day, while driving his car, he winds up driving off a 40-foot cliff and tumbles down the cliff. Bam, 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 bam. Here's the guy at the top of it all, flies off a cliff. Now, this guy was successful. Am I right? He comes out of that car without a scratch on him. And then he realized, my God, I need to make a change. So not only did he make a change from his life, but he realized that maybe football wasn't his path to success. Maybe baseball wasn't his path to success. He wound up becoming a football coach and coaching college kids. And through coaching and through teaching, he became fulfilled. He became a new person. And that gentleman is a man by the name of Deion Sanders, who you might have heard of. And it's just an interesting concept because I was like, oh my God, you start to see people who we think reach these high levels of success. I could tell you that there's no amount of money that will ever have somebody say, I'm happy, I have money. Because when you have money, I've been poor and I had money. When I had money, I'm like, damn, it's maybe easier to not have money because when you have it, you're looking over your shoulder thinking everybody's going to take it. And that's a bad vibration. It's a bad, so there's no amount of money that's going to make you be like, I'm happy now. I have money. It doesn't work like that. True fulfillment is doing what Sheila's doing right now, bringing people together. You know, in these communities, we are going to create a brand new world, you know, and everything's going crazy in this world right now. People are running left and right. And, you know, that's where my book comes in. I'll just say it like this. Do you ever see like those videos, you know, they'll post online where there's like two people on like a roller coaster, like a slingshot, let's say. And then one person's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Oh. And the person next to them is like, relax, you know? So hopefully this book puts you in the seat where like, relax, don't worry what's going on. And then when the ride goes off, the person's like, oh, please help me. And the other person's laughing. My job is to maybe help people, you know, be the person who's maybe calm during all this madness. And I don't know, maybe the secrets help, maybe they don't. These secrets have been gathered over a 25-year period, and they were really put together with the help of some very interesting people who personally helped on this job. And I guess I'm just going to get into this. I'm just going to get into my awakening. You know, just like many of us, in 2016, it seemed like a lot of people were starting to awaken. Many people awoken before that, and you guys were trailblazers. But for me personally, I was immersed in the 3D, going to school, getting degrees. I was a teacher. I was a dean. I owned real estate. I owned businesses. My phone was ringing off the hook. I thought that was success until I said, oh my God, who the heck needs success? I don't want success. I want something else. But I was so trapped in the 3D that I could not get out until I had this horrible injury. You know, it's funny. It's like injuries have a funny way of pulling us off one course and then changing our lives. And at first, it seems like a nightmare, like a total disaster. But these disasters are really blessings in disguise. And I had this injury and I couldn't walk. So I had to go get back surgery. So I went to go get back surgery. And this was in 2016. And then a few days after back surgery, I was a dean in a high school. And two of our football players got into a big fight. I break up the fight and I wind up destroying my surgery. So it was a terrible thing. I couldn't walk. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how could this possibly happen? Why? This is crazy. I certainly wasn't awake to the principles I'm going to share with you. So it was tough to deal with this. So what wound up happening in my awakening was I was sitting on the bed. For the first time in my life, I had nothing to do. And I said, yeah, let me read a book. And this is where things get interesting, because all of a sudden I had time to do the things I didn't have to do. So I'll just make a long story short. So I wound up having to get emergency surgery. I wasn't able to walk for 6 months. A few days after my emergency surgery, I get rear-ended by a Ford 150 Velociraptor. It was the biggest car anybody's ever seen. I got hit and I was in the emergency room again, not able to walk, not able to, and you know what? I was laughing at this time. And I learned a lot about myself in this time, because I was like, oh, what does this world have? What does this world have in store for me? It didn't make any sense why this was happening. Even the people around me were like, oh my God, did he break a mirror or something? And that bad time, and where everyone felt bad for me, and I kind of felt bad for myself, but you know what? I was doing nothing. There's nothing like doing nothing, because in doing nothing, I was able to read a book. And there was one book that I just found out of nowhere. It was a book by Ruth Montgomery. It was called Aliens Among Us. And I was like, let me just read this book. I really didn't give the extraterrestrial thing any attention at that time. But all of a sudden I read this book and I put that book down and I was like, how could I forget? How could I forget we're not alone? It was like a remembrance. And I think they call this period like a great awakening. I really think it's just a great remembrance, because once you remember one thing, it opens up a door to all kinds of ideas and inspirations. So that's what happened. I started to wake up towards the ET and the galactic scenario we have going on. I started to meditate. And now, Sheila, you have an interesting story, because you talk about walk-ins. And I could have swore maybe I was a walk-in of something, because when I started meditating, now by meditating is very interesting. Meditating, you bypass years of neurological programming. So my diet changed, my food preference changed, my music. I used to listen to rap, Eminem, and this. I started listening to classic rock and classical music. And then I started to look at my problems from a different perspective. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And what's interesting is Alan's interview with Daryl Anka was one of the first videos I've seen online. And I believe, and I don't know for sure, but I believe that's the video that had me, get a subscription to Gaia. From Gaia Network, forget it. I started seeing all these videos and really waking up like crazy. And then it's not like life got easier when I was waking up. It actually got more difficult. It's just my perspective changed and my reactions changed so that I was able to handle that stuff better. And then I was like, man, then all of a sudden, ideas and thoughts and inspirations were coming through to me. And I was like, oh my God. So I started to meet very important people in this field who I highly respect. And really, they became teachers for me. They became mentors. And what happened is my 3D reality was getting strange, because a lot of things I was trapped in the 3D started to almost disappear. I had a bunch of apartment buildings in around New York City. And I wound up, just because of real estate came up so much, it seemed like the universe was like, all right, are you ready to go for your mission? I'm like, I guess so. And all of a sudden, real estate goes up. I wound up selling things. I'm never lucky. But for some reason, as soon as I started to wake up to a better version of myself, I think the universe was like, all right, I think he's ready now. I think we tortured this man enough. And, good things started happening. And be it as it may, it leads me here in front of you, great people who are changing the world, one video at a time. So what happens is there's certain things throughout my life there seems to be certain principles that keep repeating. These principles have been since the beginning of time. Those who follow these principles go on to do great, great things, whether it's, army generals, whether it's Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar or military generals, all through the professional athletes and CEOs and everything. The same thing repeats. If you guys read books like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Napoleon Hill, or certain books like that, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, certain books, you start to see that Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, they all started to tap into these secrets that I'm going to share with you right now. All right. So, it's very interesting. With all this stuff going on right now, I went through my dark night of the soul. My dark night of the soul was my injury, and I awoken. Look what's going on right now in this world. It seems like chaos. It seems like everything's falling apart. We're having a collective dark night of the soul. People are being forced to wake up. It's like the most beautiful thing. So many people think things are falling apart when everything is coming together, where all this division in the world is not dividing us. It's uniting us under Sheila, under Susie's music, under everyone, under Alan. So it's bringing us all together. And now the ET thing is very interesting, because the ET thing gets people interested. And then through the ET thing, all of a sudden you start getting some information from Bashar. You start getting in some information from Alan. You start getting information from this one and that one. And then you could use that information to start to master your 3D reality. All right. So let me jump into the secrets right now. Let me get my coffee first. Pardon me. Anyone have any questions before I start? So here we go. My secret number one is really what was the beginning, was the foundation of my life falling into place. It is the idea that miracles are the norm. They are not the rare chance occurrence. Miracles are the norm. Miracles are the natural order of things. I now do not hope for miracles. I rely on them. And what started to happen to me is, as soon as I became a better version, a more mature version, and as soon as I started to waking up to a different level of thinking, all of a sudden I started to see repeating numbers, like many of you in your awakening. And then all of a sudden I would think of a person, and then they would call. And I'm like, what's going on here? And then I would need a certain amount of money, and I would then receive that exact amount I needed. Now, I said, wow, these miracles are just happening now. But if you look back at your life, you could look back many times and say, wow, you know what? I needed money there, and all of a sudden I got that same amount. Oh, wow. Miracles have always been there. And I'll give this story. I was in LA at an LA conference in 2021, I believe it was. And, I met this kid. He was from LA. He's like, dude, there's portals in Antarctica. I'm like, what? He's like, dude, there's portals in Antarctica. I'm like, he said it 50 times, and I was able to translate it, that there were portals in Antarctica. And I thought that was cool. But, later on, like that year, I was like, you know what? Is not the womb of a woman a portal? You know what I mean? The portals are right next to us. Is not a woman a portal? Am I wrong? And Alan has a great example in his wonderful book. And it was an example I used before I read Alan's book. So it's near and dear to my heart. Like when you look up in the sky, the sun happens to be 40 times larger than the moon, but just so happens to be 40 times further away than the moon, giving them the exact same appearance in the night sky. Now, my background's in mathematics and statistics and finance. That's mathematically impossible. And when you look through nature, if you look at the face of a sunflower, which is very interesting, because if you guys were to look through at the face of a sunflower and then perhaps meditate afterwards, you open up certain I mean, I did it myself. I don't know if it'll work for you guys, but I'm pretty sure it will. Happens to me every time. If you look at the face of a sunflower, there's this Fibonacci sequence that seems to repeat all throughout nature. And what's interesting is you look at that and you close your eyes, you'll see that exact pattern. And if you meditate on it, who knows, maybe there's DNA activations, you feel really energized. So I started to see like, wow, miracles are everywhere. And once you tap into that force, you start noticing more of them. And it's almost like the universe is like, the miracle part of the universe is like, oh, wow, he recognized me, yay. And let me give him more, you know? And then before you know it, I have very weird. For example, I was reading somebody's book and, I met the guy one time. I gave him my number. As I was reading his book, that person called me, and I have many, many different miracles that I was like, God, there's something's going on here. And then I come to find out Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie, all these guys, they believed in this miracle force. They believed if they could just quiet their thoughts, they could allow that force, they could allow information, they could allow inspiration and ideas to find them. And that's a trick. That is a trick to this matrix, is to tap into that force, because one idea, one inspiration, that's all it takes, not only to change your life, but to change the world. And it's amazing, and I just want to go to Sheila. May I ask you a question? Now, how did you get started with this? Like, how did you get started with the Galactic Alliance, with the show?
Sheila has an incredible story, Adam. You will not believe the miracle of Sheila's existence. Really, it's fantastic. It made me a believer. Go tell Adam a little bit, because it'll help. I think he'll, yeah.
Okay. So I used to be a very, very sick person. I had been diagnosed with bone cancer, brain tumors, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. I walked with a cane, blah, blah, blah. I went to bed very, very sick. And what seemed like 7 o'clock the next morning felt like someone reached down, grabbed me by the hair of the head, pulled me bolt right up in bed, and it was like lightning ran through my body. Then I was in white space, and I don't know how long I was in white space, but I liked it. I was out of pain. I was very comfortable. It was all unconditional love, and I would have stayed there had given the choice, but I wasn't. So the next thing I know, my peripheral vision came in, and then my frontal vision came in, and immediately I had all of the clairs, which I didn't know what they were at the time. And my body was totally healed, which I didn't find out for a couple weeks when I went back to the doctors, and they were running tests, and they're like, well, we have no explanation. They never used the word miracle, but they had no explanation for what had happened. And so everything about me changed, my habits, my everything, just like what you're describing, everything about me changed. Within 3 months, I had left the marriage that I was in. And well, let me back up. Initially, as soon as this event happened, I started recalling past lives.
What year was this?
This was 1999. And I didn't believe in anything like that at the time. And so what happened was, it was actually the DNA activation of the bodysuit that I inhabited. Those were not my past life memories, but it was karma that I had agreed to take on. I had to start clearing some stuff, blah, blah. But anyway, so I started believing in that. I started having universal truths, which now I'm just beginning to share 23 years later. I had all kinds of healing modality information running through my brain, which I had never studied, knew nothing about. And so I really became a totally different person. And everything, just like you're saying, everything changed. And then throughout time, I ended up being in Colorado, having my own business and working with my guides. They kept pushing me to go bigger and bigger until finally I wrote my book. And then Alan heard my story and introduced me to Neil because I wanted to have a walk-in conference. And after the walk-in conference, there were so many people contacting me that it was like, man, I can't do this individually one-on-one, because I really tried, but I just couldn't do it. And so we started having these meetings because a lot of people said it was the first time during that conference that they had the opportunity to gather with people of like mind, that even though they may not be a walk-in, they could relate to all the various stories, and they felt this sense of love and community. And that's how the Galactic Alliance started.
That's one big miracle. That's a
Yeah,
miracle. They're
that's
the
a
norm.
miracle.
Once you tell, if it happens to somebody, it's almost like there's a movie called Pleasantville. In Pleasantville, everybody's in black and white, except for maybe one person. Whatever, for lack of an argument. Anyway, one person turns color, and then they start living a more carefree existence. And then people see, wow, that person's in color. How are they living? And they're living carefree, and they're living an exciting life. And then all of a sudden, they're like, you know what? I want to be in color. And then they turn color, and then they turn color. And that's what we're all doing here right now. Right now, we could call our consciousness maybe helping other people, change color. And there's a lot of stuff I could tell you right now. Many people think the world is falling apart by the current events, but we're in this information age where things are coming in hot and heavy. I look back, I study history. I can't think of another time that every time before this, besides like 1980 and 1990, besides those like 20 years, every decade before this was way worse than now. The only thing that's different is we have this information coming in hot and heavy, and we got people just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So the idea is, can we use technology to unite under the Sheilas, under the Allens, under my dear friend Jenna, who's here today on this call? When you rally around these people, you guys are changing the world. And can we unite everybody under this kind of scenario before AI starts to control everybody, before people start using AI for the wrong things? So we do all have maybe a collective mission that way, but it's beautiful. And it just brings me that's my first secret. And you say there's certain universal principles and laws. That's what I have. These are fixed laws that it becomes mathematically impossible. It becomes mathematically impossible to continue to see numbers, to continue. And then as my journey went on and my dollar amounts that I needed in my life became bigger and bigger, sure enough, I kept hitting those dollar amounts. Weird checks in the mail, weird situation here. And what's great, I documented all this. And the people around me, they've seen it and they're like, what the hell's going on here? And what's interesting is, I have real estate, but I was able to give up my job. From that injury, I was able to give up my job, focus on real estate, focus on my awakening. And as I was awakening, real estate prices were flying high. I wound up getting rid of certain properties that were killing me. And from that, I was like, what do I do now? I didn't know what to do. So I was like, I don't know. Maybe I'll read a book. And then, from the Ruth Montgomery and all this, and from Alan and from even Bashar and all that material, I wound up gathering these principles and putting them together in this book, because I think creating things, there's a lot of magic behind it. We'll talk about it. But what I'll do is I'll jump down to secret number 2. The secret number 2 is the universe is always conspiring in our favor. It took me a while to learn this. I was always like, oh my God, I'm late for work. Oh, this, like the universe seems to give us what we need and not what we want. And thank God, because when we're not our best self, we may not want the things that will help us later on. So I talk about it. For example, I had this friend. His name was Carmelo, one of my best friends. In the late 90s, he was making $1 million at 25 years old. I was 18, he was 25. He was making over $1 million a year. The stocks were flying away. He was spending money like crazy and living a really fast life and blah, blah, blah. He was with this girl. She was like a supermodel. And it was like, wow. But everybody knows what would happen in 2001, the market crashed. He lost everything. And he was down and out. And he was a shell of himself. But what Carmelo did was he reinvented himself. Instead of buying stocks. He got into insurance, and everybody needs insurance. And from insurance, he was able to, after a certain amount of years, he was able to build his business back up. And now he makes more money than he did in the 80s. He married a beautiful, intelligent, wonderful girl and got rid of the wacko supermodel. I'm not saying all supermodels are wacko, but this one happened to be a little wacky. But not to judge or anything, but for him, it was not the right person. And then he wound up having 3 beautiful children. He makes more money than he did in the past. And I was like, wow, I think that saved him. Losing money saved him. Getting injured saved me. For you, Sheila, your dark night of the soul brought you to somewhere where you're a walking miracle. So the universe seems to know what we want, even though we may not know what we want. So that's a secret. I don't get mad at anything now. Anything bad happens, I don't look at it as bad. I look at it as, all right, maybe there's something better for me down the road. And I'll say one more story. I had this apartment built, and I have so many stories like this in the book, but I owned this apartment building. It was like a rundown building. It was beat up. And this was like when I first started buying properties, and the thing burnt down. 87 firemen put out this fire. They got the news articles. And what's interesting is not one person got hurt. And it was a terrible situation. I lost what would be around $1 million on this deal, I would say. And it was right around maybe 2010, something like, anyway, to make a long story short, in the end, I wound up getting the insurance money. I wound up rebuilding the property. I wind up learning how to build. And then that property became one of my best investments for the foreseeable future. So it took me 38 years, I'd say 40 years, I'm 43 now. It took me about 40 years to realize that, wow, if bad things happen, you got to give it time, because it may not make sense now, but the universe seems to always conspire for us. And that point may come, you may realize down the road that, oh my God, I just broke up with this girl and she was the love of my life, or I just broke up with this man, he was the love of my life, only to find out that the real love of your life is someone in the future. And when we become our best selves, it's like we attract the best people into our lives. So the universe has a wonderful way of giving us what we need, allowing us to become the best person. The baby bird has to get kicked out of the nest to fly. And if the bird doesn't get kicked out of the nest, the bird doesn't fly. Sometimes the universe has to do that to us. It has to kick us out of the nest so that we learn to fly. And when we fly, our life becomes better. So this is a concept used by the most successful people in the world. The idea that the universe is always working its way out. And when you're in the vibration that things are going to work out, things work out. When you're in the vibration and the mental state that things aren't going to work out, things don't work out. You know how that goes. Which brings me to secret number 3, which is circumstances in life. They don't matter. It's our state of being that matters. All right. And our state of being is really a collection of our beliefs. Our beliefs create, thoughts and feelings and emotions, and they create our actions, and our actions create our reality. Now, beliefs are a very tricky thing, because we have certain beliefs that are conscious, like, oh, the sun is in the sky. We could all agree with that. That's let's say a conscious belief. An unconscious belief would be like when you were little and all of a sudden you heard your parents, when you were 5 years old, you may not remember this belief at all, but you might have heard your parents over saying that money is the root of all evil. And throughout your whole life, you're unconsciously holding on to this belief that money is the root of all evil. And throughout your life, you're deflecting money instead of attracting it. So beliefs, there is a way, there are ways to master beliefs. I'm going to tell you how I started to master some of mine, because all beliefs are limiting. Even positive beliefs could be limiting in a way, because you never know what the universe has in store for you. But anyway, to make a long story short, I thought I would need to be a professional writer to write a book. But as I started writing the book, I realized, wow, an idiot like me could write a book. Interesting. I thought I would have to be like a multi-millionaire to buy real estate and all this, but that's not the truth. With a little bit of money, I learned how to buy real estate. And then I was able to bring partners in without having to spend much money. And then I was able to build what I would call, an empire, I would guess you would say. And as I shattered each belief, I started to say, geez, I should just shut up. Because in the debris of my shattered beliefs was a key. And this key is the door to the matrix. Because if you could shatter one belief, you could shatter them all. And then when you shatter your beliefs and you open the door to the matrix, you basically become a way shower for others to follow in your footsteps. And the more beliefs you shatter by taking action, you can't grow a man bun and do yoga and Pilates and shatter your beliefs. No, you have to take action. Action is how you do it. It's like the universe is like, oh my God, thank goodness, this person's moving. I can almost think, it's kind of interesting. It's probably like our higher selves are like watching us live down here. And they're probably talking to each other in spirit, like, what in the world are these people doing down there? They keep going to the same place every single day. They're watching the Kardashians. How many episodes of the Kardashians could you watch? Or how much TV? They sit in front of these screens. What are these people doing? And our higher selves are like, we gotta shake this up. Let's draw in the COVID. Let's have a war over here. Let's make them be uncomfortable, because it's in that uncomfort that we grow, and it knocks us off course. And when we're knocked off course, it's interesting. We're in the unknown. Most people fear the unknown, as do I. But I came to believe that the devil hides in the comfort zone, but pretends he hides in the unknown. The unknown is where you learn about yourself. And I really think we're down here to maybe just learn about ourselves, not to complicate things. Who knows why we're down here, but it seems like maybe learning happens to be one of the ideas. So circumstance don't matter, state of being does. So you really have to master your beliefs. Once you start mastering your beliefs, all of a sudden your thoughts change, and then your actions change, and then your life changes. It's like that. And when, I tell people, many people are like, oh, I lack abundance and this and that. Oh my God. I talk to them. I'm like, listen, would you trade your eyesight for $1 billion? They're like, no. Well, if you aren't going to trade your eyesight for $1 billion, then you must be a billionaire. Am I right? It's like when you cut through the materialism, the things that matter most are free. How much would you pay for oxygen? Oh, a lot of money. Am I right? But no. The things that matter are free. We need to eat, drink, sleep, and excrete. And breathe. Eat, drink, sleep, breathe, and excrete. Everything else is programming. Now, programming is an interesting term because our marketers are, if people are looking online and they're seeing this one live a great life, they're watching this show. Oh, this person's buying this car. This person's, I could tell you, getting into debt, trying to keep up with the Jones, trying to be somebody you're not, is how you trap yourself in the matrix. You get out of the matrix when you start thinking differently. And which brings us to a next, I guess I'll go over the fourth. Where am I? Secret number 4, which is the power of momentum. Now, momentum is where you could achieve the impossible. For example, you have certain people like myself who are like, oh, I got to write this book. This book is, where am I going to start? I think I want to write a book. It sounds like it's going to be fun. And it's like the first word is the toughest. The first sentence is pretty hard. The first paragraph is difficult. The first page follows that. Then the second page follows that. Then all of a sudden, while creating, something happens. Ideas, inspirations, they come flowing through. And I noticed while writing my book, all of a sudden I'd write like 10, 15 pages without coming up for air. And I'd be like, oh my God, how did I do that? And I look at it and it wouldn't even need to be edited. So it's when we're creating, no matter what we create, even if it's a snowman in your front yard, it's like your minds are like, oh, we're creating. Yay, I'm not bored anymore. We don't have to watch the Kardashians. It's like a heart and mind, like, oh, I can assist him now. I can assist her. So there's a lot of magic behind creation. There really is. And it's in creating where I was like, oh my God, I'm actually having fun waking up the next day. There wasn't much that would make me excited to wake up, but it was in creation, creating this book, meeting new people, creating videos. I mean, it's like that fulfills you. And that is success. Fulfillment is success. Success is not success. It's a made up word. Fulfillment is true success, to me anyway. And that's it. So taking momentum can be seen anywhere. It's really physics. And when we're in motion, when we're creating, when we're moving, an object in motion stays in motion until it's stopped. That's physics. So while it seems like when you take a step in the direction of what you want to do, it seems like you're going uphill, but that's not true. When you take a step in the direction of what you want to do, you're taking a step downhill, and each step gets easier, not harder. And like a snowball rolling down the hill, picking up speed, picking up size, it gets faster, it gets stronger, and that momentum carries you until you're not only creating books like Sheila, you're creating videos, you're bringing people together, and you're achieving the impossible. And Sheila is a testament to all of this. So you have been living these. And these are very interesting concepts, but momentum is our friend. In the book, I get into it. I give you a lot more examples of how momentum can be used financially, how it can be used in all different ways for our health, everything. So momentum is my secret number 4. Secret number 5 is, and you heard this before, the idea of gratefulness. I call it gratefulness is greatness. What happens is this. I have my daughter, and I learned a lot. You learn a lot from kids. You learn a lot from the children. The adults are not the teachers, the children are the teachers. My daughter is the best acceptor in the whole entire world of gifts. You give my daughter a pencil and she'll think it's a pony. So needless to say, I have a house not full of furniture, but full of toys everywhere because everybody just gives to her. I've never been a good receiver of gifts. When people give me something, I'm like, but my daughter is the best receiver in the world, and everybody in the world gives her everything. I might have to say the universe might be the same way. Why should the universe give you stuff when you're not grateful for what you already have? It seems like the universe is like a loving parent. And when you're grateful for what you have, you will be given more. It says this throughout religious texts, but it says it in like a way where you might not understand it. In the Bible, it says, he who has will have more. But gratefulness is a very important vibration. It's a very important mental state. When things are going wrong in your life, the idea is to focus on what you have, not what you don't have. And it's a great way that marketers get us. They show us what we don't have. And we're like, oh, I don't have that and I want that. And if we could just focus on the things we have, we become more fulfilled. And that's what happened to me. I started to be grateful for what I had. And as soon as I started to become grateful, more things in my life began. And I said, wow, what things to be grateful for found me. Wonderful friends, wonderful people, great opportunities. So gratefulness is a very tricky thing. It's almost like the universe is like, finally, you recognize me. Stupid. I've been here the whole time, but you didn't realize it. But it's a very simple concept. Now, what I do for gratefulness is I actually have like a gratefulness, like a journal, I guess you could say. So things that go right, I write them down every night. And you know what? I don't know, maybe it works. Every day I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be here in front of everybody right now. I talk everybody's ear off at my house, so they're sick of listening to me. So now I could talk your ears off. But to fast forward, I get into the next secret. The next secret is the journey is the destination. The path is the process. The journey itself, the lessons we get from it, that is the finishing point. is the mission. We're always looking for this, final point. And once we reach it, we're like, okay, what's next? But there is no final point. The journey itself is the beauty. The ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights, it's all beautiful. It's all lessons learned. And it seems like physics agrees with the idea that there's no such thing as time. So we may go through something in this life, but not realize it has nothing to do with this life. Perhaps what we're going through now is the exact information we need in another life, whether it be a so-called past or a so-called future. We may learn lessons now that seem terrible, but that lesson we learn now is helping us in our past. That past is helping us in the future, and it's all evolving. Life itself, existence itself evolves into greatness. So the journey itself, and there's a band called Queen. You heard of Queen, am I right? Everybody heard of Queen. And when I started meditating, all of a sudden I started to like the band Queen out of nowhere. I was like, what the heck is going on here? And this was before the movie came out. Anyway, now Queen made albums that were hits, but they weren't making any money. When they first started out, they were making like $20 a week each. And they had some hit songs. And then they made another album that was another flop. And then they were making then all of a sudden their $20 a week allowance went to $30 a week, and they were all happy. This was at a time where they were actually very popular. So now they had one chance, one opportunity to get it together and make a successful album. And if they don't make the successful album, they would have had to call it quits. So they make A Night at the Opera, in which Freddie Mercury creates this song, Bohemian Rhapsody, in which the words are very like, talk about predicting the future. He talks about a time of dying and having everybody else face the truth. He talks about, in that song, he predicts his future life. And it's a very interesting concept, because when we create, I think we're tapping into the future and we're pulling information from the future. So how does that tie into this secret? It's just that when Queen looked back and they remember the times when they were making $20, they had all the success in the world after that album. And Bohemian Rhapsody took on a life of its own. But when they look back, the times they all value is the time that they were making $20 a week. That's what really energizes them, that they kept going under all that adversity until they became one of the best bands in the world. They could have quit right there, but they didn't. And they always look back on the path. And what they remember most are those hard times. And that's what I remember most of my life, those hard times. And it's overcoming those hard times that makes us who we are and what makes us stronger. When somebody who walks through darkness, who walks through addiction and breakup and divorce and trials and tribulations, when that person finds the light, they become a beacon of hope for everyone else to follow. And if you overcome anything like what Sheila overcame, you know what kind of wisdom, what fulfillment that is? It's a different kind of wisdom. When I got over my stuff, and I'll say it here, I owed millions of dollars. I was $5 million in debt I had assets possibly that covered that, possibly not. I remember walking in Manhattan and seeing a homeless person and saying, man, I bet that guy doesn't owe any money. I was jealous of the homeless person. I was like, man, that guy I bet he doesn't owe $1. And it's amazing. I said, wow, it was really a perspective shift, because I was jealous of the homeless guy. And here everybody's like, oh my God, that guy makes money, this and that. And I started to realize, damn, this is stupid. And I was able to dig my way out through miracles. Really, when I tapped into the miracle force, everything started to work out, and whatever happened, happened. And I was able to overcome that, and be it as it may. But the journey is the destination. The bad things that have happened to me are the things that I remember and love. They stink when they're happening. They're terrible when they're happening. But be as it may, it's what I remember. It's near and dear to my heart. overcoming those challenges, you can't put a price on that. That's true success. That's true fulfillment. And if you have trauma, your trauma, I believe trauma is a superpower. If you could overcome it, trauma is a superpower. When you overcome it, it fuels you, because if you can get over that trauma, then you could get over anything, no matter how bad that trauma is. And trauma can actually energize you for the rest of your life. You have a different kind of strength, a strength that can't be taught. It can only be taught through experience. And that's secret number 6. Anybody have any questions? Is my mic on? Can anybody hear me?
Yep, we can all hear you. Yeah, I think we're into number 6. Let's hear number 7, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Now, number 7 comes from somebody who's very important to me, but I'm going to save number 7 for him. It's his formula. It's it'll be in the book. It's somebody who's near and dear to my heart, and somebody who really, it's their book. It's not really my book. It's their book. I just kind of put it together. So I'll when that book comes out, you guys will be surprised at who's on this book and the contribution they made. And that, you know, that's it. But in the end, bringing people together like Sheila's doing, and my friend Jenna. Jenna, you there? Could Jenna? What, did she hang up?
Yeah, I think we lost her.
Okay, that's all right. But she's also bringing people together. Alan's bringing people together. Sheila's bringing people together. Susie's singing beautiful music. I mean, I can't think of a better life right now than meeting such beautiful people. And we're all tapped into this galactic ship. We know what it is. Now, there's only one thing I say is, I believe if I was a higher being ET, I'd be like, guys, stop looking at us. Find yourselves. Once you find yourselves there, you'll find us. And that's what's happening now. And that's what we're all trying to do. And my principles are really 5D principles, kind of, that you could grab and maybe bring to the 3D. In the book, I get in depth with the principles. There's wonderful messages that follow, and there's action plans. You know, certain things that you might be able to do to tap into each secret.
Beautiful.
That's pretty much it.
That was awesome. That was absolutely fantastic. I wrote all of these down. You know, I think that, what is it? Miracles are the norm. The universe is always conspiring in our favor. Circumstances don't matter. It's our state of being. I think that one's my favorite. And then the power of momentum, achieve the impossible, gratefulness, and journey is the destination. You know, all of these are so, you know, they're kind of like common sense principles that we take for granted, that you have really, you know, gathered together and explained it in a different way that we can all, you know, digest that. And so I'm really appreciative for that. That's fantastic. So let's go ahead and see, do we have anyone that has any questions whatsoever? Just go ahead and raise your hand or come off mute. Susie.
Yeah, this was great. I've had the opportunity to be a personal assistant to 11 millionaires, but I've also been to many third world countries, lived with the tribal people where there's dirt floors, and hands down, the people that don't have anything, they have joy. They have, you know, several of the rich people that I was working for asked me if I would trade places with them, would I? And I said, no. I said, if you gave me these 3 acres, I would sell them. I would do something valuable for the planet. But because they're, just like you said, they're afraid. It was, he had to hire people to take care of his stuff, and then he didn't trust the people he had to hire. And oh, it's a downward cycle. This was brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Susie. That makes my day. And I say it too, you know, there's a channeler. Her name is Barbara Marciniak. She says that in spirit, there's certain people, certain souls, they're a queen in one life, they're a king in one life, they're a president in one life, They save the universe here, but the life they remember is a random life in America, not in America, in some random part where they had nothing. And they had nothing, but they had love. And it's that life that soul holds onto. And the higher beings are like amazed by it. And it really woke me up too. And I lived it. I lived it. I could tell you that many of the people we believe are affluent or rich, you got to look over your shoulder. One lawsuit could bury you, one sickness, one disaster. So it's like, maybe we need to get rid of that type of life and then and that's what we're doing now. We are going to build a new earth this way, where we talk to each other. We're not trying to outdo each other. We're trying to learn from each other. And from that, we'll become abundant. We'll trade with each other. We'll trade food. We'll trade thoughts. We'll trade ideas. We'll teach our children together, and we'll live. And that's the earth we're going to build. And there's no stopping that because of the work you all are doing. And it's amazing, the music. The music is a great, oh my God. You know what? When I started to wake up, all of a sudden I was like able to play the piano, and it started to open up what I would call the right side of my brain. And from opening that up, and I was very left brain, but by playing music, by singing, by being creative, by writing, doing art, you like start using a total part of your brain. And then you really start thinking like a brand new person. It's amazing.
Yep.
But thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Susie. Does anyone else have any questions? Stone, are you still on here?
Yes, I'm still here.
Hi. Yeah, I wanted you to kind of talk about, overcoming, and how as soon as he started talking about overcoming and having, trauma that you then turn into a strength in your life, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see what Stone has to say.
Yeah, I come from a dark background, and I went through quite a heavy breaking down the magnitude of the experiences that I had undergone, and there was always always some sort of blockage that I had to try to get over, and it was like the different programmings that I broke along the way, and I was like, wow, I had an epiphany. I just broke a blockage. Well, if I'm able to do that, then I have to believe in myself that I can get through the next lot. Yeah, there's too much for me to list that I've actually gone through. I've also had back damage and so on. It's a long haul in any form of recovery. Trauma recovery is a big thing to deal with. But once you get through to the other side and you go, well, there's nobody I can trust. There's nobody I can actually turn to. I've got to turn to myself. I've got to look within myself and see what's available. And that's where I got to start the work. I've got to learn to give appreciation to that little child. I've got to raise that child to be who I want to be the best version of, and the main thing for me was to reach that highest frequency I can. And in all the learnings that I've gathered is basically stay in your authentic truth. Be within the light of your truth, because once you're there, nobody can tell you what your experiences are, what you've suffered, what you've learned along the way. You can share your commonalities and your findings, and that may help others not to have to go through what you went through. So it's like bringing the best version of myself forward. I don't have to live in that program of trauma. There are ways out of it. We may not be able to heal all the wounds and scars, but we can teach and show others how to create the tools they need to manage what they have to deal with. So thank you
beautiful.
for sharing. It was muchly appreciated. There's so many levels to this. It's so many levels.
That was beautiful.
Fantastic. Thank you.
See, I'm just a student in this, so it's amazing. I learned from such a great community who's really tapped in. And many of you have been the way showers for the people who woke up recently, like me. And my friend who was just on, You become the way showers. And you guys are like you blazed a trail. You held all this energetic frequencies at a time where it was like, people would look at you like you're crazy, but you were just so tapped in. And you guys really did all the brunt of the work for us to just slip on in and wake up. But it was you guys who woke up in the 90s and the 2000s. It's really you guys who blazed that trail. And it was an amazing, oh my God, it was an amazing adventure you guys took on. Probably the most difficult, because what you guys did is you guys were like the first person in Normandy. You were like the first people jumping out of the boats in Normandy. You cleared the beach for everybody else to just prance on in and wake up. And, so it's beautiful. And we're going to have one big party, because this world is going to change very, very shortly into what we think is going to be our golden age. And perhaps the golden age is just sharing information like this and getting together and saying, you know what, let's just have fun. Let's just sing a song. Let's just play some music. Maybe perhaps it's just that.
Awesome. Beautiful. Hey, Carol. How are you?
Hey, Sheila, how are you? I'm well, my dear. And you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks.
And every, body, mind, soul, food, clothing, shelter, friends, family, finances, all the areas in human life. And how's Willow?
Willow is awesome. Thank you so much for asking. Yeah.
He is, yeah. Absolutely amazing what he came through, and survived, and amazing, yeah. Okay, Adam, you have pulled it together so beautifully. Because I'm 78, so I sort of
that fulfills me like you don't even know. That I can't think of a better gift than even hearing that, because I don't know how I'm going to affect anyone. I don't know if they're going to throw tomatoes at me, but so it warms my heart.
You're most welcome, really. I mean, I was 78. I hate to say it, I've been there, done that. But you say you're a student. My gosh, you graduated, okay?
The school of hard knocks first.
Yeah, absolutely. I could relate so much to your life. But
can we hear some of it?
What are you? Okay, I'll share that. But what you're going to do is you're bringing humanity up to higher levels of consciousness, right? Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from all my groups, whether this is part of human evolution, that it's a natural thing, or I've heard there's some good ET, the spiritual beings that want us to, that are helping us in the wings, to go up. But anyway, and I'm just wondering that, that's what you're getting, as well. Right.
Thank you.
So quickly, my life, you asked your question, I've already got it typed out. I've got a conventional life. So in 1945, I was born and educated and worked in accounting in London, England, right? And the World War was going on, World War II. My mother was nursing me in the hospital, and we were thrown out of bed by a bomb blast.
What a great experience that is for the soul.
That was, yeah, absolutely. You need that. If life goes along smoothly, I don't think we do anything. I think when something happens, that motivates us to do, So that was my introduction to the world. I was supposed to come out in December. I didn't come out till January.
January what, if you mind me asking?
45.
January,
the war ended. January 45, 1945. Yeah. So I guess maybe it wasn't a bomb. Maybe it was a V1 or a V2. From Werner von Braun, right, from Peenemünde in Germany, right, the first missiles. Yeah, the rocket, the motor would cut out, because it was, I don't know what, it was jet fuel that it brought it over the English Channel. Then when the motor cut out, then it dropped, it's dropped its weapons, right. Oof. So anyway, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. So in 1968, I followed my uncles here. All my uncles survived the Second World War, all in the Army, Navy and Air Force. They all survived. They all came back. My grandmother got, all her boys back. And they came over to Canada. And And so I followed them. All right. My mother came with my grandmother. She wanted to see her Canadian grandchildren that hadn't been born in England at the time. So she was in her 90s, the first time she'd flown in an aircraft. She remembers Queen Victoria in the balloons, right? Going up in a balloon in the Crystal Palace. But anyway, so I came over and I carried on working, and I was employed in payroll, pension and benefits administration. And then I got involved in some abusive relationships, and I wondered what was going on. So I went to college and university, and I got degrees in counselling and psychology. And then they wanted a payroll degree, and then I also got into teaching English as a second language. So I worked in the corporate world, and then when I did my practicum, when I was training in counselling and psychology, I did my practicum, my internship in a women's shelter and in a detox and a drug treatment centre for men. So I really saw the other side of life. Anyway, so in 2015 I retired. So anyway, and then my unconventional life is in 1956, I had a daylight sighting of a UFO with my cousin in England. We were playing badminton over the garden wall, and this thing just hung there in the sky. We were used to seeing the military go over because the US, Churchill had asked Roosevelt for help because Britain was on its last legs and the Nazi regime was only 21 miles away across the English Channel. So he asked Roosevelt for help. So Roosevelt, it was better for the US forces to be stationed in England so that they could, they could bomb Germany, right? Rather than coming across the Atlantic. So we were used to seeing the US Air Force going over, and also our own RAF, also the commercial aircraft going into London Airport, Heathrow. But this thing just hung there for about 15 minutes. It was silver disc and the sun was shining off of it. Anyway, so my cousin stayed with science fiction, but I kept this thought in my thought, it's more than science fiction, there's truth in this. So when I came to Canada, I got involved in a lot of the UFO conventions. There wasn't that much going on in England. So we used to go down to the States. I met a couple and we went down to the States and went to some of these conventions. So I met Betty Hill. Barney had passed away from natural causes, but Betty was touring around, with her experience about being abducted. And then Travis Walton, the logger in Arizona. And then Larry Warren, he wasn't abducted, but he was at Rendlesham. Then in 1980, I had a near-death experience. And I would cut a long story short. I realized that I wasn't Carol Stacey, that I was consciousness in the body. It's almost like I melted into consciousness. I realized everything is consciousness and frequencies and vibrations. Then I traveled to places like Stonehenge and Chichen Itza and Grand Canyon and Egypt and all these spiritual places. Now, right now, I'm a member of 8 groups. I've got Monroe, the Billy Meyer UFO group. I've got Eckankar. I've got Sheila's Galactic Alliance, the Opus group, the Winnipeg Experiences group, the Toronto Experiences group, and the Knowledge Book. I'm listening to radio shows like Coast to Coast and Jimmy Church, but I'm also teaching. In this near-death experience, I told my time was not up. I had to go back and give out. So right now I'm doing teaching. I do presentations. I teach remote viewing, transcending levels of consciousness, the history of UFOs and higher intelligences, and my near-death experience. So
where do you?
So we're like.
That's beautiful. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful. I could tell you're such a healer, and it's like these special souls came in around that World War II time. I mean, you guys just really blazed that trail. You really just opened up the doors for the people like Sheila to wake up in the 90s. And then Sheila, like I did. And is that Diane? Diane, are you on?
Diane, yeah.
Is that Diane there?
Yeah, Dyann. Is she there?
Hi, Diane. She has an amazing story too, because me and her spoke for a while, and it's interesting. I can't believe I'm seeing it's wonderful. We're all a soul family, and it's funny. It's we all know each other. There's no accidents here. We all know each other somewhere along the lines. And some of us may carry the baton to the next person.
Yes, she is.
And that's hi, Diane.
Carrying the baton.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, Diane.
I'm so excited for you, Adam.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, we went over some things here. We're great, such great people, and just really bring it. And we even spoke about this, Diane. Bringing people together is like, this is what's going on. So all the strife we see in the world is actually uniting us. It's amazing what's going on. And we're using technology to get together, to share ideas. And all of us have like the same ideas, the same kind of awakenings, some more prevalent and more extreme than others, but it's all the same. And you guys, many of you were trailblazers for people like me to wake up in 2016. I was saying, Diane, I even said that to you. You were a trailblazer. You guys took on these heavy, heavy burdens of awakening at a time where nobody was awake. And how do you share the fact that you saw a UFO without, people being like, this person's now, look at it. Now we could say and be like, there's a UFO there. And sooner or later, there is first contact. We are all getting first contact through our ideas and inspirations and thoughts in our books. That is first contact. I could tell you I wrote 20 pages at a time without even realizing it. And then using words I never used before. And that comes from somewhere, where does it come from? But this is what a wonderful experience, I must say.
Right. Well, it has been absolutely phenomenal to have you here with us tonight. Again, I wrote all of these down. I think, I can add that to like my morning routine just to kind of read it in the morning. It's like, oh yeah. And just drop a little deeper into that place of gratitude. So thank you so much for doing that. Let me ask you though, before we wrap up for tonight, is there anything else that you would like to share with everyone? Any final words of wisdom?
I could go on and on and on, but really it's these groups that are really, what's interesting, as I'm doing this now, as I'm tapped in right now, all of a sudden I'm reading a book and these ideas come through my head and I'm like, oh my God, I got to write them down. And I don't know where these ideas are coming from, but it seems like when we're tapped in, perhaps somebody else's higher mind or whatever may be coming through to the people who could be just a little more tapped in, and their higher mind might be like, all right, that person's awake and that person's going to see Sheila and Sheila needs this information. That person's going to see Diane. Diane's going to be on here. So the higher self will give Diane some information. Diane will get that information and give it to somebody who needs it. And it seems like we're antennas to something great. Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, they called themselves antennas because they were able to quiet their mind, tap into the ether. And it's in this ether where there's all these kind of ideas and inspirations. They call something strange happen throughout the years. They call it simultaneous inventions. That's where two people on the side of the world created the same thing at the same exact time. It's impossible for that to happen. And it's happening more and more now. So just like the internet works, where there's ideas and information that goes wirelessly perhaps the ETs, our higher selves, are sending that information in. And when I'm exercising, I don't have to be meditating. When I'm in a car driving, when I'm exercising, when I'm in the shower, I get hit with these inspirations and ideas that I have to jump out of the shower. I'm slipping on the floor, ice skating over to my phone, and I got to write these things down. And sure enough, some of these, I don't know where these come from, but who knows? And it's just beautiful. And I'm really fulfilled just by getting information. I don't need anything else but information. Information and wisdom and this kind of community. I could ask for anything more. This life did not make sense to me up until recently. Now my life makes sense. And it's all because of you. Beautiful people have awakened and really opened the doors for somebody like me. And I love it. I love you all.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with us. And thank you guys for being here as well. I would say if you have not yet signed up to be on the Galactic Alliance mailing list, please do so. I always like to warn people, you will receive at least 2 emails a week from us notifying you of our upcoming speakers, because we always want to give a little extra promotion to everyone to let you know who you can watch when. And then, of course, you can always catch the replays on, Roku, Amazon, Apple TV through the Conscious Awakening Network. You can catch us on Facebook or on YouTube, also on the Conscious Awakening Network website or phone app. So thank you guys so much for being here. I want to just kind of bring everybody up as we get ready to head out of here tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Much love to everyone. And until we're back together again, namaste. Have a beautiful week, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Good night.